Hunter Renfrow, Deandre Hopkins. How many times would you think that you would mention these two names together as potential improvements to the New Orleans Saints wide receiver corps? Well, technically, I only want one of them, but we're going to talk about both. Welcome in, everybody. Who dat? God bless. Hope you're having an amazing week. It is the last week of May. Year is flying on by. It's Tuesday. It is a very beautiful, sunny, pretty nice Louisiana day, all things considered. And we're going to spend it talking about football as our team did a lot of work today. For those that don't know, we have OTAs out. They were out playing and having a good time. And we're going to talk about who was there, who wasn't, and then also talk about, hey, could you end up adding these two players to your wide receiver core? Do you even need to? And with the situation over in Las Vegas, could New Orleans end up sending Jameis Winston over there if this whole Jimmy Garoppolo thing doesn't work out for them and basically have just completely fleeced the Oakland Raiders? Well, damn. We'll see. Honestly, out of the two, the one that I would rather the New Orleans Saints go after is, of course, DeAndre Hopkins. The simple reasons are, one, he fits better towards that split ends position. Now, that would also maybe put in a lot of competition for Michael Thomas. And while I do want to fully support Michael Thomas's attempt to return to his former glory, DeAndre Hopkins still is a very good player at his position right now. Now, I don't think that Hopkins is what he was in his ultimate prime. Keep in mind that we're talking about an individual who is 30 years old. He will turn 31 in right at 1 week. However, if you look at what he's done recently, even last year with Arizona, and I really hate his 3 years in Arizona because I feel like you just watched him just go downhill, but I don't necessarily think a lot of it was DeAndre Hopkins as much as I thought it was the coaching staff in Arizona and Kyler Murray. So what you have with DeAndre last year was a 700-yard receiver, 3 TDs, and what you really have always come to know him for is the ability to make big plays and contested catches, being a very large physical receiver. You know, he's 6'1", 215. It's very similar to how Michael Thomas would play ball. So if you're New Orleans, this is a fit that makes a lot of sense. And the biggest reason why he's the main one I would rather than go after is not only the size perspective, because we talked about before, Hunter Renfrow will play that split end position, but he's a little bit more sized to be a natural, I feel like a more natural slot guy. But it's also just from the fact that Hunter Renfrow is still a member of the Las Vegas Raiders, whereas DeAndre Hopkins is now a free agent. And I think D-Hop just provides New Orleans a level of depth that would kind of, I hate to use the word guarantee, but I think most people would say that they're more comfortable with him there. The only negative to really push, if you brought in Hop, do you have room for anybody else? So we've already talked about there being really 5 spots probably locked in. You can maybe argue that you move one of those guys around, but that would make it really difficult for Shaquan Davis, Malik Flowers, James Washington, Kirk Merritt, who's, around, any of these guys to make the roster and really try to show up. It would also obviously take away snaps from up-and-comers like Rashid Shaheed. You bring in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, you're not going to use him, right? Like, you're going to use DeAndre Hopkins. You're probably going to give significant snaps. So when I see that, it's fine, but I also am curious if New Orleans is going to go and pursue him as hard as fans would. Now, I will say that I think that New Orleans should do, and I talked about this months ago, you should build the best possible team you can build. Hands down, that's it. I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins necessarily hurts anybody else that's a young and up-and-comer. He doesn't hurt Olave. He maybe hurts Rashid Shaheed from a pure total snap perspective, but they don't really play the same position right now. I think the biggest person it would hurt is Michael Thomas. But out of the way, I mean, I think it's a great fit. And if your goal is to put the best squad on the field, and ESPN actually did an article, I think it was Jeremy Fowler, we made an article talking about best fits for the New Orleans Saints, or best fits for DeAndre Hopkins. New Orleans Saints was on that list. So when I see that, I'm just talking about building the best potential team. I think that the New Orleans Saints have to give Hop some consideration. Now, we're going to get into the chat and get y'all's thoughts, but let me get some shout-outs to those who were here to the live portion of the show. I always appreciate y'all, especially in May and June, the months that, maybe not as many people are as excited about football, but you crazy diehards, I absolutely love y'all. TJ, Nikki the Fish, Bim, Chemo Slice, Cam B, AJ Gaines, Beacon, James Griffin, Honest Abe, Is Poppy 504, Huncho Smooth, Tidra, Jimmy, Bruno. What's up, Jimbo Bruno? Matthew Richmond, Lame as F. We know what you're saying, but I'm not going to say it on my show. Rainy, Funny Guy, everybody else, welcome in. As today we're talking some Hoot Ass. So feel free to drop everything y'all want about these two names. Now, again, I'm not saying that they're coming to New Orleans, but I will say it makes a lot of sense, and I will say that the fit is there. Price matters, and fit matters. And honestly, if you're DeAndre Hopkins, I'll be completely truthful. If I was Hopkins, I probably wouldn't sign for New Orleans because this is his last shot. What I mean is he's turning 31. And even though he's a former All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, I think twice second-team All-Pro, so 5 total All-Pros, I would rather try to sign with somebody that you think is making a Super Bowl. I would be trying to sign with Kansas City, Buffalo, if I was DeAndre Hopkins. What else does he need to really solidify his career? A ring, right? He's made good money. He's played 10 years in the league for 2 different teams. He's had 5 All-Pros total, Pro Bowls. If the man wants something else, I think that he should try to get a ring. And I'll be honest, as much as I love the New Orleans Saints, I don't think that that's a team that gives you the best shot for that. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just trying to be honest, right? One thing that I always try to do on this pod is be pragmatic. And sure, do I think that the New Orleans Saints can really surprise a lot of pundits? I really do. But do I think that the New Orleans Saints are a Super Bowl contender right now? No, I don't. And I think that, yeah, you want to see the Saints going for the ring. But if you are sitting there going, I believe Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, Derek Carr, like all these names coming in that you just believe that they are ready for the Super Bowl, it's tough for me to jump on board that. Is it possible? Yes. I mean, if we want to be factual in our assessment, what you saw from Dennis Allen last year was his best performance ever as a head coach. Now, we, during the season, hated that. And just be honest. So it's exciting in May, and yeah, I do want to believe, but at the same time, if I'm Hop, I'm staring at a contender. That doesn't mean that New Orleans is out of contention. I do think that New Orleans has a legitimate shot because New Orleans has the cap space. Yeah, suck it, everybody who thinks that New Orleans can't sign people in the offseason. And New Orleans has the position open and available. Sorry, Michael Thomas, I really do love you, but I'm not confident in you, and I said that several episodes ago. We'll just see what happens. So all of this, we'll just have to wait and see. But personally, as a fit, he fits tremendously well. He's another guy who hasn't played as many games the past 2 seasons as maybe you would like. If your whole argument about the Michael Thomas thing is him not playing seasons, well, Hop only played 9 games last year and 10 games the year before. Now, he was a perennially healthy player in terms of playing every game that he could during the season. If you look at him with Houston in his first year in Arizona, 16 games, 16 games, 16 games, 16 games. But the past 2 years hasn't been the case. So either way, if you bring him in, your wide receiver room would be DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I think with the locked in number 4, A.T. Perry. And then I would probably throw in Brian Edwards and have 6 guys. But that means like Malik Flowers, who's your potential new return guy, or even Traquan Smith. I'm going to mention that name just to get everybody in chat mad at me. Somebody's going to get left off. So, yeah, you're right. It was a suspension rook. Good call out. Good call out. The year before, however, was missing because of that. So, missing time is missing time, but it is good to clarify with context. I would love Frank Clark. I don't think he fits, Funny Ben. Not to really segue too much. I know I have a bad habit of rabbit trailing, but I don't really think Frank Clark fits the defense very much. I mean, it's whatever. I'm not going to throw a fit if you get him. If you manage to sign a quality veteran in May, June, let's go for it. But I'm not going to bang the drum. I will admit, I'm banging the drum for DeAndre Hopkins because I think that he instantly makes the team better. I do think that there are some potential issues it could cause in terms of the Michael Thomas situation. He doesn't really get a shot now. It kind of feels like you're pushing him to the back burner after you just gave him a kind of extension contract that's worth $10 million. So are you just wasting that $10 million? Does it not matter? Does it matter? I mean, these are questions that maybe nobody needs to answer as long as you're winning football games. But I think there's also something to be said for, do you believe, because I will say also, I think that Hopkins is still very good. Do you believe that he's still at that elite level that he makes a game-changing difference? I personally do. I want to make sure that we're playing, I won't use the word devil's advocate, but I do think context is big. I really do believe that coming into New Orleans, if he did, he would be coming into a much better situation. I believe the Saints running back room is better. I believe the quarterback, sorry, y'all can be real big fans of Murray, but I'm not the biggest Murray fan. I think the quarterback situation is better in New Orleans. And I think that the wide receiver room is better in New Orleans. So I think you'd have less pressure to be great while also more opportunities to be great. Now, by the way, I don't think Murray's bad. I just don't think that Murray's elite. I think Murray and Carr are on very similar levels, and some people might not like that, but that's what I think. So I think you'd be in a really good situation if you're Hopkins, but at the same time, like if you are Deandre and you're staring at New Orleans and Kansas City and Buffalo, and those are three choices of teams that want you, would you lean New Orleans? Personally, I would, bro. Look, I think our food is a fantastic thing. But there's also, I'm about to throw a little shade to our favorite city real quick, so bear with me. But how much of his income would have to go to replacing car windows every daggum year? So can we please stop busting the damn car windows? Like Jesus. They don't even steal shit. Just stop breaking the windows. Do something to tag it. I don't care. Tag a wall. Be artistic. Spray paint something. Stop breaking the damn windows. But I wouldn't pick New Orleans if I have other options. But if he doesn't, bring him here, and I think that he can be another quality receiver. I really do. As far as Hunter Renfrow goes, in terms of like who I would want more, I want DeAndre Hopkins a lot more than I want Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is also more expensive because he is with a team, so that requires a trade. I will add though, there is some things that maybe could be done here. And keep in mind that New Orleans has been linked or has been reportedly talking to the Las Vegas Raiders about making this type of a trade. So if the Jimmy Garoppolo news, which if you missed it, says that he's basically unhealthy, failed a physical, if he doesn't manage to pass it, they have a real big question mark at quarterback after just getting rid of Derek Carr. Could you try to trade and slide a Jameis Winston over there? Now, as much as I believe that Jameis Winston got just absolutely done raw, really do, in New Orleans, I'm also not opposed to using that man as a trade bait. So I'm going to send them a guy who maybe can actually play football for them. Hopefully. Shout out Jameis Winston. I want you to be successful. We'll see if it happens. But if you remember, New Orleans just drafted a quarterback to be the quarterback of the future / backup, and then you still have Taysom Hill. So it's not like New Orleans has nobody ready in the wings. It would also free up some cap space to trade Jameis Winston. So overall, it wouldn't be a net negative. You would have a weaker backup quarterback situation. But on the flip side of that, you would improve your starting wide receiver depth. So either of these moves, I think, would make the team better as a whole. And I think at the end of the day, your offseason goal is to make your team as good as possible. So either one of them would do that. But have to wait and see if it happens. I don't really think it will. Bim says 3,000-yard, 10 TD receivers is just part of the equation. Hey, I think Olave is a 1,000-yard receiver. And if you want to say DeAndre Hopkins comes to New Orleans as a 1,000-yard receiver, cool. Who's the third one? Who's the third 1,000-yard receiver in that situation? Also, you just said Derek Carr's throwing well over 5,000 yards in that situation. So, I'm here for it. You think see, here's one thing, Rook. I think it's impossible for Hopkins and Michael Thomas to both have 1,000-yard seasons. They both play the exact same position. There's only one split in. Now, you can slide Michael Thomas in the slot and then vice versa and try to get them on the field at the same time, but you can't just give 100% of the snaps to both of them. They play the exact same spot. So I think it's if you brought in Hopkins and he's your full-time starter, it's impossible for both of them to be 1,000-yard receivers. So MT's barely here. I want MT to be successful. I was being honest. You know, you're going to slide guys down. You do that with split ends, but you're talking about sliding them down 30, maybe 40%, depending on the game. Still going to be a primary outside guy. And especially in New Orleans, because you don't really have anybody right there. You just don't. Like, I love MT, but you don't really have a split end on this team that you can rely on right now. The only split end that you have that's been healthy the past few years is A.T. Perry, and that's college health, not even NFL health. So, again, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not going to sit here and throw in 1,000-yard and 10 TDs either. Like, I love these guys, and I want to give all the love to the Saints, but I can't do that. Brian Edwards, funny guy. I don't know if you knew this. Brian Edwards not been healthy. I ain't trying to throw shade. I'm just being honest. Like, Brian Edwards literally played like one game last year. We started one game last year. So that's, my point. Like, health is an issue. And yeah, I want him to be 1,000 yards. I just don't think it's going to be. We can wait and see, though. And again, I do think that either of these moves would make New Orleans better. I think the Hopkins move in particular would make the team better. But I also will admit that I don't see a high probability of it happening. I wanted to, but I really would be kind of surprised if it did. My dog snort. It did. It happened. Olave, Shaheed, Michael Thomas, Edwards, Perry, Washington. Look, if I had to give that final, like if I had to give a 6th spot, Washington's not my guy. My guy is Malik Flowers. I got nothing against James Washington, but why would I bring James Washington in as a guy who has had plenty of opportunity to show it? I think if you're talking about a skill position player, by this time it would have hit. Like, it would have popped off already. James Washington's been in the league since 2018? 2nd round pick. I'm not saying he's trash, but he's okay. I didn't mind the signing at all. Like, I didn't have an issue with it. We had a pretty good conversation about it. And then we talked about the whole Dallas thing kind of did him dirty. So I do think that he's one of those low-key, could be surprising seasons. But at the same time, that's before you had A.T. Perry. That's before you brought in some of these UDFAs that can provide a lot of spark from a returning aspect. Because when I look at the history of James Washington, do I see a guy that I believe is going to be a consistent, dominant special teams player? No, I don't. So I always think about that. I know that makes y'all think a lot of our friends over at Locked On Sports, and that's fine. But James Washington's not a guy that I'm going to see being a huge special teams contributor, whereas Malik Flowers would be. And the other bonus is Malik Flowers is young as hell. James Washington's 27. Malik Flowers is not. Malik Flowers is a UDFA rookie who's 23. He's brand new. Just got off the boat, man. He's ready to play. He wants to prove himself. And I tend to leave the bottom of my roster spots for young guys to prove it. Now, if Washington just balls out here in camp, OTAs, training camp, yeah, I think you're giving him the opportunity to make a name for himself. You're giving an opportunity to make this roster. But I also don't really see him on the roster at this moment, but I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that he's going to have to bust to make that happen. It's a long road. And there have been plenty of, veteran type signings that happen in our offseason. Like, hey, they signed him for a reason. They did. Again, the reason they signed him is you're trying to make the best 90-man roster going into camp and preseason that you can. And then you see what happens. But just because you're a veteran who's, a 2nd round pick 5 years ago, doesn't mean you're going to make it. Let's wait and see, though. He is somebody to watch, so I like that you brought up the name, Rook. But I think it's more likely that you see a young guy take that spot, especially in a year where we finally have a little bit of confidence in our receiver room. So, Billy says that Washington has a lot to prove. I think he should find a young team to mentor. Well, we do have a pretty damn young team. Olave, Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry. That's pretty. Can any of those guys even grow beards yet? I'm just asking. Like, I'm just giving you a legitimate question. I'm just asking. Can they even grow a beard? I can. Look at this. This is a grown 33-year-old man, vibrant beard. Look at this. Look at it. Can they do? I don't think they can. So, I mean, if you're talking about a young wide receiver room that you can mentor, I think this is the appropriate spot. But yeah, I just don't know if he's going to make the roster. We'll just wait and see. Again, we decided to keep Michael Thomas. I got no problem keeping Michael Thomas. It makes sense. Michael Thomas is on a very team-friendly contract. It's a prove-it deal, but I also don't think that it's a must-have either. There's a really simple reason you keep Michael Thomas. You don't have a starting split end. Why do you keep Michael Thomas? Why do you keep trying to make it work? Because you don't have a starting split end. So you try to make it work. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. You move on. But when you made that deal for Thomas, you did not have a starting split end. And now the only other split end you really have is a rookie that you got in what, the fifth round? Was it sixth round or fifth round that we picked up A.T. Perry? Fifth or sixth? And again, I'm not trashing Perry. I'm shocked that he fell that far. And he cited character concerns, whatever the hell those things always mean, as why he fell. So I'm wanting to look at sixth round. Yeah, so you don't just get rid of a guy because you drafted a sixth round wide receiver. I'm completely okay with us letting Michael Thomas be here. But at the same time, if you pick up DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not just going to give snaps to Michael Thomas. If you have A.T. Perry really start balling out and earning that spot, I'm not going to just give Michael Thomas snaps for the hell of it. Michael Thomas has to earn those snaps again, which is why his contract was basically yeah, you can make money, but you better ball out. You thought I had a Raiders hat on? No, fam. This is a beard hat. See the beard? Although, shout out to the Raiders. I appreciate you giving me a starting quality quarterback that I hope works out. I do appreciate the Raiders. I think Shaheed's going to be a good, but he's turned 25 this fall. If it's going to be good, it has to be now. Well, I think we saw him be good last year. Now, in kind of like response to what you're saying, which, by the way, he turns 25 this year. That's not super old. If you remember, Michael Thomas was like 23 his rookie year. And it was kind of old for a receiver coming out of the draft. But he just put out a 500-yard year, 2 TDs. I know Marquez Callaway had a pop-off year in 2021. So, sure, sophomore slumps are a thing. But I think he's a guy that I'm watching to have a really successful season. So, I'm not worried. We'll wait and see. I'm happy about it. Like, I like Rashid Shaheed, but you are right. There's always that concern that if he's going to pop off, he needs to pop off now and show some consistency. It's a real thing. Still, Bill, good to see you. Teacher says, no talk about Traquan. Hey, I'm sorry, but until Traquan Smith is no longer on the roster, we're going to talk about Traquan Smith. Okay? He is still on your roster. If you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at Mickey Loomis. I didn't sign Traquan Smith. Rev ain't signed Traquan Smith not a single time. Not in the past 5 years have I ever personally signed Traquan Smith. Okay? So don't blame Rev. Blame Mickey Loomis. But as long as he's here on the roster, we're going to talk about Traquan Smith. Okay? Okay? Yeah, y'all can be, just don't be mad at me. Don't come on to the Who Dat Confessional podcast and be like, damn it, Rev, why are we talking about Traquan Smith? Because he's on the roster. The man is on the roster. The man can block. And you know how they feel about receivers that can block in New Orleans. It gets you an extra 2 years of contracting. It's just a fact. Accept it. Now, do I think that this is the year that he can be pushed off the roster? Definitely. Because you finally have a little bit of depth. You have some young guys that you're confident in. You believe in some of these guys. Do I think this is a year that Traquan cannot make the roster? Yeah, I really do. But I'm also going to bring up the man's name. I'm not going to disrespect him. He's on the roster. He's here. And let's also put it this way. 79, 80 people listen to the show right now. Y'all can get mad at Traquan Smith for being on the roster all day long. But if I brought Traquan Smith on as a guest to talk about wide receiver play, every single one of y'all would be grateful. You appreciating the football knowledge. So glad to have a Saints player talking to y'all. So be very, very mindful of the hate that you're throwing. Billy says if Traquan don't get kicked off, I'll be upset. Billy, you're going to be upset anyway. You know why? So you always need something to be upset about. Actually, I would not watch the episode. Teacher, you're lying. You're lying, all right? I need you to stick to the appropriate team. Detroit is like 800 miles north. If you want to be a Lion, you go up there. But down here, we're Saints. We tell the truth. We don't sin down here. So stop lying. If you want to lie, go up to Detroit. Bye. Deuces. Those are bars, by the way. Y'all can put it in your, put that on your SoundCloud. Put that on your SoundCloud. Practice squad about to be loaded. I will say it would be hilarious because you can put veterans on the practice squad now. If Traquan made the practice squad, oh my God. Oh my God, it'd be hilarious. It would be freaking hilarious. Traquan going to find his way on this team? Look, Ben, I personally think that there's some better options, but I will also tell you right now, will I be shocked? And y'all can quote me. You can quote me. You can quote me. I will not be shocked if Traquan makes this roster. May 30th, 7:52 p.m. Rev Deuce will not be shocked if Traquan Smith makes this roster. I will not be. I'm not saying I want it to be. I'm not saying I don't think there's some other names that I think will pass him, because I really do. I think there's some young names that are going to pass him. But at the same time, will I be shocked that he plays a 6th season in New Orleans as that quality, reliable backup guy? I will not be shocked. I will not. You know, last year was arguably his worst season as a Saint, and he still got 30 targets. Still. I think last year was his worst year as a Saint. I really do. So, agency's the GOAT when the defense forgets he's there. So, I probably think the most annoying thing about Traquan Smith is he has got some like really clutch, really impressive catches, and then the most annoying drops ever. You know, I can name, for example, there is one of Drew's record-breaking passes, was to Traquan Smith. Fantastic catch in traffic. He had that catch. Remember the game against Philly like 4 years ago that he caught at the goal line and got absolutely just like pelted, just beamed, and held on to the ball and caught a TD? Or what about that corner end zone pass from Jameis Winston? Those are fantastic catches. Like, absolutely brilliant. And then he also, remember, how about that game against Tampa Bay where he just drops wide open pass? Man's up the sidelines, got 15 yards in front of him, and then just up there with the football. Man's got some just boneheaded drops for no damn reason. Like, not even contact drops, not even people in the vicinity, just wide open drops. So I think that's probably the most frustrating thing about Traquan, because like he'll show that he can make a damn good play and then be boneheaded the very next. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Funny guy says, I think honestly he didn't develop properly because declining quarterback play, if it would have came like 2015, I think it'd been good. I honestly don't think that had anything to do with his lack of development personally, but I get you. Jerry, good to see you. Saints simply drafted the wrong dude. We should have gone after Michael Gallup. Same class, same round, swing and a miss. I don't think so, honestly. I disagree with that. Why? Michael Gallup, more of a split end. Traquan Smith was drafted to be the replacement for the one, the only, the myth, the man, the legend, old Unc, who was playing flanker opposite Michael Thomas. That's cool. I mean, I have nothing against Gallup. I think he's been a quality wide receiver for Dallas. A little bit less past couple years than he was. Like his second year, he really popped off. What was that, like 2019? But even he's never been a Pro Bowler, and he does have 1,000-yard season though. So I mean, that's something. He got 1,000-yard season. But we drafted Traquan to replace Uncle Ginn, and it just never worked. And you're right, Gallup is coming off an ACL. It just never worked, and that sucks, right? Third-round picks don't always develop and work out. Some of them do. Shout out to Alex Anzalone. Shout out to Trey Henderson. Some of them pop off. Others end up kind of becoming middling players. Traquan Smith. And then other third-round picks completely wash out and are ass and never do anything in the league at all. How many Saints third-round and fourth-round picks can y'all think of that did nothing ever? Like just completely boo-boo garbage. They exist. I mean, Ian Book is technically still in the league, but that's probably the most recent one. But we can go Rick Leonard was a 4th-round pick, wasn't ever literally never became anything. Garrett Grayson never became anything. P.J. Williams was a middling guy. Like, P.J. Williams never became great. He just lasts forever. John Jenkins never became anything. Martez Wilson, Johnny Patrick. So, in the grand scheme of Saints 3rd-round picks, Tre'Quan Smith is far from being at the bottom. He just never developed into being at the top. And at the top, you've got guys, like I said, Alex Anzalone, Trey Hendrickson. I really hope Kendra Miller this year. I think Paulson Debo is still going to be in that conversation, even though he had a bad year last year. Let's see. Adam Trautman didn't work out. Neither did Zach Bond. And, since we're bringing up those two names, I would rather have Tre'Quan Smith than Zach Bond and Adam Trautman. So, how you forget Alvin? I don't forget Alvin. That's like the best running back in team history. We're just talking. But yeah, Alvin Kamara, 3rd round. Alvin Kamara is like maybe the best 3rd-round pick the team's ever had. So, well, no, some other good. Teron Armstead was also a 3rd-round pick. That Jimmy Graham was also a 3rd-round pick. I don't know, man. That makes it really tough. That kind of makes it tough. Like, yes, Kamara's at the top, but he's also got a couple other names at the top with him that were also pretty damn good. So anyway, do you and Tre'Quan play Xbox together? I'm PC Master Race, fam. PC Master Race. Bond more valuable than Tre'Quan Smith? At what, Billy? Is he like your spades partner? Does he just great call the books? Like the man just knows what's happening? What has Tre'Quan done in the league that's so much worse than Zach Bond, who has done nothing in the league? Zach Bond is a perennial special teamer. Hey, Slade, how you doing? Like, look, if y'all want to throw shade at Tre'Quan, go for it. Have at it. Zach Bond ain't done ish in the league, ever. Not a second. You know, Zach Bond was known to be a fantastic pass rusher out of Wisconsin. How fantastic? The man had 12.5 sacks his senior season. He has had 0 sacks in the NFL. 0, as in nada, none. UDFA out of nowhere, Caden Ellis, like freaking RKO'd out of nowhere, on pace for 10 sacks. Oh, Billy says not his fault. 100% his fault. 100% his fault. We can talk about playing Bond out of position, but I'm sorry. Bond's inability to do anything on the field is his fault. You can't just blame coaching staff for that. Because if it was all coaching staff, how Caden Ellis come out of nowhere? Sorry, there is some responsibility to you as a player to become better. And if coach says that you need to do something, then you find a way to do it. Do I believe the Saints should have done that? No. But does that excuse literally no sacks, no pressures, nothing as a starter? It does not excuse it. No. You're trying to build an argument against Tre'Quan with the worst possible example you could find. The absolute worst. You would have been better off doing Adam Trautman. At least that man caught some damn passes. Zach Bond ain't done nothing, ever. Not a once. Not a twice. Not a half a time. My man Zach Bond does one thing in the NFL. Special teams. Special teams. It would not be like telling Tre'Quan to switch tight end, TJ. It is not. No, it's not. Look, do I believe that they should have used Zach Bond more as a standing pass rusher off the edge? Yes. But did Zach Bond play coverage and fallback linebacker in college? He did. He has that tape. They didn't just out of nowhere completely switch him with nothing. Yes, I do believe that they should have used him better in New Orleans as a pass rusher. 100%. But that has nothing to do with the man completely failing anytime he's been on the football field. Y'all gotta calm down with these whack arguments, bro. Whack. Whack, whack, whack. Whack, whack, whack. Tre'Quan's contributed more than Bond? For sure. Tre'Quan is 2,000 receiving yards, or like 1,800 receiving yards, and like 18 touchdowns. 18 touchdowns. That matters. If Zach Bond had 18 sacks in 3 years, we'd be talking about him. Damn, I mean, he wasn't great, but he did something. Man ain't done nothing. Not a once, not a twice, not a 4 times. Now, if y'all want to say Traquan sucks compared to third rounders, y'all better bring up Alex Anzalone, who's a damn good starter at this point for Detroit. Bring up Alvin Kamara. Bring up Trey Hendrickson. There's third rounders we can bring up. But Zach Bond's about the worst case you could pick if you just pull names out of a hat. So, anyway, how come we always get on Traquan somehow? I think y'all secretly love Traquan. Like, you love to hate him. If Traquan leaves, who y'all going to dislike next? Y'all let me know. Who's next on the list so I can kind of get ready for it? Who's next? Traquan gone. Who's the one we dislike the most next? Just go ahead and tell me, chat. Get Traquan drunk and make him take a physical? Damn, Deandre. That's raw. That's raw. Why? Don't do that, man, like that. Damn. That's just dirty. Dirty. Oof. Oh, We don't like it. We don't like it at all. Oh, my goodness. What am I going to do with y'all? Y'all a bunch of goofs. I love y'all to death, though, because I have so much fun when we do this podcast. And y'all actually let me get like a little excited, and, you know, it's fun. We get in here, we get a little bit dramatic sometimes, and I appreciate that. But, man, the shade on poor Traquan, like, I just feel so bad for him. I really do. Who's trash but flashes traits? A Saints player that has been trash but flashes traits. Shit, PJ Williams. Just being real. I mean, that's PJ. I'm going to give Turner one more year. Same thing I did with Cesar Ruiz. I'm not getting into Turner yet. Am my buttons, like my fingers right on the trigger for Turner? It's right there. But same thing with Ruiz. 3 years. 3 of them. If he does absolutely nothing this year, oh, I'm full up on it. He's on my list. Got you. But right now, he's not on the list because he's only done 2 years in the league. 2. 3 years? Yeah. You don't think PJ's trash? He's a decent role player? Why do you think he's a decent role player? Because he's a trash starter. Traquan's a trash starter, but he's a decent role player. What's the difference? But yeah, if Peyton Turner does absolutely nothing this year, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to put him on the list. I'm going to give him year 3, though. Because remember, year 3 is the big year for basically every player. Year 3 is usually when you finally start seeing what they're going to be full-time in the league. So, Traquan had opportunities to start, but got passed by Callaway. For sure. Well, technically, Callaway's a split end. Traquan is not. Remember that. Traquan's not a split end. Traquan was drafted and is a flanker. So if we're going to talk about Bond being out of position, well, let's not bring up Traquan getting passed by Callaway because that's 2 different positions. It's not semantics. That's your argument getting destroyed against you. See, TJ, this is why you got to be very careful about what you say. Because if you say something like you did about Bond, and then you try to flip it a minute later, you get all wrecked. Don't be getting wrecked. Turner got DNPs. Well, see, I can't speak to that because I don't really know about work ethic on Turner. So that's all speculation. All I'm going to say is if Peyton Turner don't show up this year, he damn sure is not getting the 5th-year option. And he very well may be the first-round pick that we cut before his 4th year even hits, which is wild to me. I'm trying to think of the last player that New Orleans drafted as like a first rounder that didn't even make the roster throughout the rest of the contract. Maybe Sullivan? Who would be the last person that was? First round pick that didn't even make it. Stephon Anthony? Yeah, that was a trade though. I'm talking about just straight cut. Cedric Ellis wasn't cut, was he? Was Cedric Ellis cut? Because Cedric Ellis was with us several years. Trying to think. Jonathan Sullivan's really, I think, the last one I could think of. Jonathan Sullivan. That man was straight cut. If y'all don't remember, I actually just pulled it up. Jonathan Sullivan, he was a defensive tackle they drafted in 2003. This is back when the Saints defense was at its height, but they needed to replace Leroy Glover, who they just sent to Dallas because idiots. But Jonathan Sullivan was drafted round 1, 6th overall. Jonathan Sullivan was drafted 6th overall. Man had 1 sack as a rookie, half a sack in the second year, third year, nothing, out of the league. Didn't even make it 4 years in the entire NFL. They said, enough, gone. Arguing for a guy who got DNPs? Nobody's arguing for guys that got DNPs. Dr. Billy, I swear that the only medication you've prescribed is alcohol because I swear you're drunk every time you come in. Bro, ain't nobody arguing for who got DNPs. I just said I'm not going to judge somebody through 2 years. 3 years. That's my rule. That's just me being consistent. Ellis played his contract out? No, he didn't. Who's Ellis? I'm talking about Jonathan Sullivan. You thinking of a different player. You thinking Cedric Ellis. Sounds like Peyton Turner trajectory. I hope not, funny guy Ben. I hope not. Also, y'all saw the prescription comment I threw in there with Dr. Billy Oshie. I thought that was sly. That was good. We got bars in this episode. Sadly, I can't string together bars together. Like, I can't give you a good 16. But if you take like one here and one 5 minutes later, you can build a half of an ether. Promise. John Jenkins is another one. Good name. Sullivan was boo-boo. Sullivan was trash. Cedric Ellis made it through his first contract. Yeah, I wouldn't pull Ellis up just because I remember. He was 7th overall. He did end up going to a second contract, but not a second team. He played with New Orleans for 5 years, but never really popped off. He was a Super Bowl guy, though. I mean, hell, the guy got a ring. I wish I had a ring. I wish I was good enough to do anything in the NFL with a ring. Jenkins wasn't a first rounder. John Jenkins wasn't. Jonathan Sullivan was. John Jenkins was like a third rounder. John Jenkins like a third. We have to judge the other two, though. Who's the other two? John Jenkins and Cedric Ellis? Any news on Smoke Monday? Lil J, you honestly not going to get any news on Smoke Monday till training camp happens. Just futuristic FYI. We're really not going to get into it. We won't know much about him at all till training camp. But he's a name to watch. Him and about 15 other DBs because we got a loaded DB room. Loaded. Absolutely loaded. He won't make the team. We'll see. I'm not saying he's going to make the team, but he's somebody I want to watch. So, Tina Ellis? Damn, Lester. I don't even know who that is. Tina Ellis. Is that somebody that I should actually know? Should I get to Googling? By the way, for those that know, we were talking about Hopkins earlier. It was announced today that Deandre Hopkins' release has been made official. So they had talked about they were going to try to cut him. And then they're like, oh, well, maybe we can trade him. And nobody wanted to trade for him. So he's just been straight cut. So he is completely available. Adebo or Taylor? What's the question? I like both. I think Taylor's better, but I like Adebo as well. Like, I want both of them on my team. He'll be picked up by the Chiefs. The word you're looking for is signed, Travis. He's got to get signed. And remember, I mentioned the Chiefs, but maybe the money's right. Who knows? Maybe New Orleans signs him and he decides, hey, I'd rather have the money. Who knows? New Orleans does have plenty of cap room if they want to make that move. I will admit, I do love the idea of carrying over 10 million cap space into next year. I do love that. Debo took a step back last season. Well, I mean, I think a big thing with the Debo last year was just being injured and trying to play through injury. But yeah, he definitely took a step back. Context is important, but at the end of the day, how you played is how you played. And he did take a step back, but I still like him. So, glad to hear someone say Taylor's better. I don't think anybody would argue that Taylor wasn't better than Adebo last year. Right? Is anybody arguing that Adebo wasn't better? Or was better? Again, no shade trying to get thrown at either one of these guys. But I think it's pretty clear that Taylor was the better player last year. At the same time, Adebo had a really good year as a rookie. So someone is, well, I don't know who that is. So, I mean, people are entitled to their opinion. I'll put it this way, though. If you just want to go from, because I'm not going to pull up film on the middle of the podcast, but I'll give you what the analytics say about both of them. So last year, Paulson Adebo was the worst on the team in QB rating allowed at 119.6. So when he was targeted, he gave up a QB rating of 119.6. He also gave up the most touchdowns. In fact, he gave up 30% of the passing touchdowns that the team gave up. He gave up 6 with a 66% completion rate when throwing his way. Paulson Adebo, struggle bust. On the flip side of that, Alontae Taylor gave a 62.6 QB rating when targeted, did not give up a single touchdown, and a 48.5% completion percentage when targeted. Alontae Taylor definitely was the better of the two last year. Now, there is context to why Paulson Adebo struggled, but at the same time, numbers are numbers, film is film. I am not trashing Adebo because Adebo, in my opinion, had a good year the year before. The year before, Adebo was only giving up 61% of his passes and gave a 90 QB rating, which is still not as good as Taylor's first year, but that's also very good / respectable. I don't think Adebo was bad as a rookie. I thought he actually had a good rookie year, and then he had had some issues in his second year. But he's only 23. Like, he turns 24 this year. That's a young guy who had a bad season. I'm definitely not writing him off. But Alontae Taylor was, I think, unarguably the better of the two last year. Sophomore slump. I'll be honest, Crass, I don't even think it was all sophomore slump. I think it was playing through injury. But we can call it whatever we want. Either way, one position I don't want to just start dumping players is DB. Because I really do like our DB room. And I think that the young guys in Adebo and Taylor are the future. Look, I love Marshawn Lattimore. I do. But we also got to start talking about Marshawn Lattimore's getting up there in years. Like, Lattimore's 27. He's got 3 more years max at high elite play, and that's it. Unlikely to continue past that point. Now, he might still play, but the years of like high end play he has aren't that many years left. Same thing with Kamara. Right now, still elite player. Very much elite. But you do want to always think about the future as well. So I'm not about to just tear down the depth behind him for the hell of it. We're quick to give Debo a chance. Hey, I'm not shooting Lattimore down. I'm not shooting. It always feels like y'all think I'm saying something I'm not. I'm not shooting Lattimore down. Lattimore is the best defensive player in the secondary. Maybe the best defensive player on the roster. I'm not shooting him down, but I mean, he's going to his 7th year. And last year was obviously a year that he didn't play as many games as we wanted. To use Dr. Billy Oshie's thing, availability is a big deal. Well, last year he wasn't available. So, yeah. Lattimore, Kamara really getting up there? Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, 2017, long time ago. Marshawn Lattimore just turned 27. It's crazy, but all those years where we're like, damn, we almost won a Super Bowl in 2018. It's been a long time ago, fam. It's been a hot minute. I'm not saying that they aren't stars, but a lot's changed. So, good thing Lattimore got a ring in 2018. Please don't. Lattimore is just 27. I'll start worrying about his age is 30. Mr. Don, there are some positions I worry about at 30. Corner, I worry about a lot younger than 30. A lot younger than 30. Now, I would say that Marshawn Lattimore is in a special category in terms of athletic ability historically. So that means that you would assume that he lasts longer, and I'm completely okay with that. But skill position players usually don't make it to 30, let alone hit 30 and start downgrading. Most skill position players don't even make it to 30. So yes, I think he'll make it to 30. But I don't think that he's going to be elite past 30. And that's just me projecting based on what has historically happened, even with great players. It's the sad truth of it is we all get old, right? Like, we all age. We all fall off. We just do. Darrelle Revis may be the best corner I've ever personally watched. He fell off 30 downhill and was out the league at 32. That's just facts. Darrelle Revis is probably the best corner I've ever personally watched and done tape on. That man hit 30 and went gone. You can really argue that his 30-year-old year, 2015, he didn't even deserve the Pro Bowl he got, but he got it, and he might have got it because of name. He was still popping off some interceptions in. But when he fell off, like he fell off quick, you know, and the same can be said for like Champ Bailey. Remember when we had Champ Bailey for about 2 months? Y'all remember Champ Bailey? We had him for like 2 months. Now, we got Champ Bailey like when he was like 35, but you could definitely have seen that it went really quickly because he was just an all-pro like 2 years before we got him. And I remember that too because I remember when we picked him up like, hey, he's old, but he was just an all-pro. It didn't take long for that to go downhill fast. Boom. Explosions. So anyway, I'm all saying that I think that Lattimore's got at least 3 more great years. I really do think he has it. But because we're talking 2 or 3 years, that means that we do need to look at young corners, right? Like we do need to make sure that Alontae Taylor and Paulson Debo pop off because the other guys in that corner room aren't exactly spring chickens either. Bradley Roby, not exactly a young player. Bradley Roby is 31 years old, right? And you want to make sure that the young guys are better up on that depth chart, higher up on that depth chart than the old guys. But you've also got Lonnie Johnson, who I know we signed. He's 20, I think he turns 28 this year. So cool. And I'm not trying to like hate on these guys, just being pragmatic. Paulson Debo and Alontae Taylor need to hit, or if they don't, like if a Debo just is complete boo-boo garbage this year for whatever reason, then you need to also consider another first-round corner or second-round corner. These are just things that you got to think about long-term. So you got to think about long-term. Alontae and whomever they draft in 2026 will be straight. See, if we wait till 2026, though, we're in the same issue we are right now where we're talking about Alontae Taylor popping off for like 3 more years. We got to replace him again. It's just it's a cycle, right? It's just a cycle. But I also love the process. Does he have a chance to move to safety to prolong his career? I mean, there's definitely that chance, and you've seen guys do that. Technically, Malcolm Jenkins did that at the beginning of his career. But, yeah, I mean, sure, that could happen. But even then, that doesn't help our cornerback conversation. That just helps our safety conversation. I think that you could see Marshall Lattimore transferred like more of a free safety spot because I think that he's proven his mental processing is higher than a lot of guys at his position. So as long as he maintains a high work ethic, which his work ethic last year, I think, and even the year before was much better than it was early in his career where he admitted he didn't always have the concentration stuff that he needed. Yeah, I think that he could, be the next Cameron Jordan in that he's with New Orleans for over a decade and he retires here. And I appreciate Mickey Loomis, by the way, saying that. Basically, he said that Cameron Jordan can be here as long as he wants to. He retires a Saint, goes immediately to the Ring of Honor and Hall of Fame. And I would love that. I would love that. How do I feel about the wide receiver room? Do you think it is better than last year at this time in the offseason? In terms of at this time in the offseason, I'm not going to lie. Last year, at this moment in the offseason, I was just as excited because I was very hopeful about Jarvis Landry, and I was more hopeful about Michael Thomas then than I am now. Can I just be honest with you? I was more excited about Michael Thomas then than I am now, and I was really excited about Jarvis Landry. I'll be honest, I had some Louisiana blinders on. Like, I refused to admit that Landry had taken a step back. I blamed it all on Mayfield and the Browns. I really thought that was a good squad. There are definitely pros to this year, though. Health, this is a much healthier wide receiver room sans Michael Thomas. I love the potential of this wide receiver room. I really do. But in terms of comparing to last year, I'll admit, man, I really did believe in Olave as a rookie, Michael Thomas as a starter, and Landry in the slot. On paper, it looked fantastic. On paper, it looked fantastic. So that's just how things go. Dennis Allen seems to be consistently drafting DBs. I like it. I like the way DA drafts and signs free agents more than Peyton. I just hope it translates to his actual coaching. I don't really think that DA is doing a ton of that. I think that's just still Mickey Loomis, though DA obviously has tons of input. I just think you need to get a lot of love to the pro scouting department and the collegiate scouting department, because that is where the New Orleans team got so much better in the past 10 years. That is where they got so much better. Not to throw shade at DA or SP, but I always want to give love to the scouting room, because I think when they redid the pro and collegiate scouting departments, that's when you saw this team get much better in both regards. I really do. And obviously, head coach is going to have say, for sure. But if the scouting teams weren't as good as they are now, it doesn't matter. You wouldn't see the same level of success. I 100% believe that. 100% believe that. I think we're a Super Bowl contender with everyone healthy. This will be Carr's best season. We beat the Eagles with Andy Dalton, and I don't want to hear they didn't have Hurts. Well, look, Ricky, come on. They didn't, and that does matter. Do I believe this team is a Super Bowl team? No. Do I believe that they're a playoff team? Yes. Being a playoff team means you can get to the Super Bowl. On paper, for me to say a team is a Super Bowl team, I have to believe that they are top 2, top 3, at most, top kind of like 4, top 5 roster in the NFL. I do not believe that is the Saints right now. However, it is May, and they could definitely pop off. They can definitely pop off. But I'm not going to jump on like the Saints bandwagon and be like, yo, this is the year. I'm going to be honest with you, fam. I don't see it. But I do believe they can win the division. And if you make the playoffs, that's the first step. As soon as the playoffs hit, it's a completely different season. Completely different season. You're worried about the O-line and the D-line? I am curious about Trevor Penning, who, by the way, is practicing. If y'all want another name to look out for, I'm not sure how many in our chat are going to be attending training camp. Trevor Penning is out there and practicing, and hopefully is your starting left tackle this year and has shown some growth. I was really excited because he worked out with Duke Manyweather last year. He's been working on becoming a better player. We'll see how it looks in tape. But until we actually see it out there, at least he's out on the field, right? At least he's out on the field. Bowed up Nick Underhill trying to play left tackle. Would you have felt this way if Sean Payton was the coach with the current team? Great question. I think if Sean Payton's the coach of this team, they have a better chance to get in the Super Bowl, yes. I think if Sean Payton is the coach of this team, they have a better chance to get in the Super Bowl. I really do. And a lot of that comes back to Pete Carmichael. I don't trust Pete Carmichael yet. I don't believe in him as a play caller or as an offensive coach. I just don't. Like, if y'all want me to be on this podcast and just lie to you and tell you the Saints are the greatest thing ever, I can, but I don't want to do that. If you want my honest to God opinion, I don't really believe right now in our offensive coaching staff. Now, they can prove me wrong, and they'll be proving most people wrong. Hell yeah, do that. Sean Payton is a proven Super Bowl winning head coach. He's a proven best offense in the NFL in the past 20 years as a whole coach. Proven year after year after year. And Dennis Allen is proven for 6 years in a row now that he is a dominant defensive coach. Now, he's not proven he's a dominant head coach, but he is not proven, or he has proven that he is a dominant defensive play caller and a defensive coach. So yeah, if Sean Payton was here, I definitely feel different. Every year Sean Payton was here, I truly believe this team can make a run. I really did. Until Pete Carmichael shows the same thing, I don't believe that. Grass says, yeah, Pete has been in NOLA how many years? Look, Pete was riding coattails for a long time. And I'm not trying to say that offensively. Pete Carmichael was not in charge of play calling any season except 2012. He did have sporadic games he was in charge of calling, and I went over those in previous podcasts last year. But last year was his first year, besides 10 years ago, being a play caller and designing the entire offense. 2 times in 15 years. So the reason I use yet is because he's really not done it. He hasn't had the opportunity. Now's the opportunity. If you're going to show growth, show growth. Show growth. I hope he can. I really do. But To answer the question honestly, no, I do not believe the Saints are a Super Bowl team, and I think coaching is the biggest weakness on the team. But it has been 1 hour, ladies and gentlemen, and it's been a fantastic pod. If you haven't already, did you check out the film study I put out last Thursday? Check it out if you haven't, if you want to go check out our new running back, Kendra Miller. Really excited about him in New Orleans. We'll be back Thursday for more. We'll talk about this. We talked about a lot about the offense and wide receivers today. We did get into a nice tangent on corners, and we got into a great shouting match about Traquan Smith because for whatever reason, y'all enjoy drama. So we talked about Traquan today, which is always a good episode. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are amazing. Fantastic. Maybe the best community in all of Who Dat podcasting. If y'all want a film study this week, I need you to go in the Discord and tell me who you want me to do a film study on. I'm assuming one of the new draft picks. But y'all go watch the film study on Kendra Miller. Join the Discord. Hit me up on Twitter. And last thing, and this is completely optional, but up to you. If you want to support the channel, check out our merch store. It is revdeuce.com. If you look on there, we've got t-shirts, hats, and yo, right quick, before you leave, even if you don't buy it, I want you to see how fire my hat design is. Look at this. Is this not, Mike, thank you so much for the $2. I really appreciate it. Those pillows look stupid on their helmets. They do, but it's for safety. Y'all tell me this ain't the most fire, clean Saints hat on the market. Look at this. Is this not clean? You could wear this. You're fit to the club. You could wear this to the church. Anywhere. Look how clean it is. But if you're like, hey, Rev, what if I don't like the all white? Cool. Get the classic black and gold look. You want to rock that retro jersey from 1985? Right here, baby. Look at it. You can only get it at revdeuce.com. You support the channel and rep your favorite podcast as well as the Who Dat Nation. Check it out if you haven't already. Appreciate y'all. See y'all on the Discord. See y'all. Who Dat. God bless. Love us. Every single one of you. Deuces.